Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's still March 26th, 2013, and this is a video just subsequent to the one that I did a little earlier. I wanted to do this one separately because I think it has some really important points. And the first part's mine, the second part isn't, and I'll tell you who that is after I'm done. I wanted to talk a little bit about Charlton Heston because he's really being denigrated right now in the liberal media, in Hollywood, and other places for what he stood for. And what he stood for was a fine, upstanding, decent American, and more importantly, a follower of God. I don't know what his religious beliefs were, and I'm not talking about the fact that he starred in the Ten Commandments or any of those things. I'm talking about the fruits of his life proved that he was a follower of God. So he made a speech to the NRA quite a few years ago, and it's become famous, but only 5 words of it. I do not have for you the entire speech that he gave, but I want to tell you where to find it. You type in on YouTube Charlton Heston's NRA speech, and you'll get a good portion of it. Like I say, I don't know where you can get the thing in its entirety, but I want to read this that I wrote about it here. And the first part is I'm going to hit on Jim Carey pretty hard. So this is where we are. Let me go ahead and read this. I know the special interests that hate liberty, probably with assistance from the government, had that slimy, disgusting sound of bull flatulence actor, so-called, Jim Carey, desecrate the memory of Charlton Heston. But that does not excuse Carey's willingness to do so, nor how he did it. For that demented, polluted, immoral, and foreign bastard belonging to the Queen of England to do what he did should infuriate the blood of every liberty-loving American. Charlton Heston was a decent, honorable, and intelligent man, certainly spiritually oriented. Foremost, he was a follower of God to the best of his ability. For this Jim Carey, that associate of tyrannical, hellish demons, to defile Mr. Heston and what he stood for is the height of hate, ignorance, and stupidity. I'm sure you've heard this a lot lately. I will never see a Jim Carrey movie again, and I will destroy any that I have in my possession. So I've given you a portion of Charlton Heston's NRA speech. I wish I had the whole thing. It was an impassioned and eloquent tribute to the patriots of yesterday and today, the ones who arose and who arise against tyranny and placed their lives on the line for their wives and their children and freedom. I hope that you'll go take a look at it and honor this great man. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that reading that I talked to you about, please listen to these wonderful, eloquent words. So if you will indulge me in this, I will try to give due respect to this great man's words. I will be reading them because they are not mine. I don't think that, well, there are few people in the world today that could put words together like this. I'll tell you who it is afterwards. You'll recognize it by the end. No man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as abilities of the very worthy gentleman who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights. And, therefore, I hope that it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen, if entertaining, as I do, opinions of a character very opposite to theirs. I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject, ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time, through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and of an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of the siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who have eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years to justify those hopes with which gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves and the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. I ask, gentlemen, sir, what means this martial array if its purpose not to force us to submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motives for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry have been so long forging. And what have we to oppose to them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer on the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, but it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not already exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves longer. Sir, we have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming on. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne and have implored its interposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and Parliament. Our petitions have been slighted. Our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult. Our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain after these things may we indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation? There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve and violate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat it, sir. We must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left us. They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope? Until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak. If we make a proper use of the means which the God of nature hath placed in our power, 3 millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we possess, are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Now you know, those are the words of one of our great forebears, one of the founding fathers, Patrick Henry. And if you heard me earlier in one of the other videos, I talked about Joshua in the book of Exodus, when he said, choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And to quote Tiny Tim, God bless us, everyone.